So our population patterns do match up somewhat with the patterns of higher GDP. There's another pattern, and that has to do with agriculture. So farming, there's been a big change in farming in Mexico, and it's moved from small farming to a lot more corporate farming, where there's lots of equipment and increasing use of pesticides. This kind of farming didn't used to occur in Mexico, and I wouldn't say that it occurs all over Mexico. There's still quite a bit of small farms there. But in this area especially, there's more corporate farming, and so that's why the higher GDP. We can also talk about how sometimes NAFTA won't benefit the small farmer, because quite often farmers will be subsidized in the United States, and then farmers won't be subsidized in Mexico. So for instance, if tomatoes go on the market, let's see tomatoes are on the market. They go on the market because sometimes in the United States, when it's winter, it's hard to grow tomatoes. Yet in Mexico, they'll still be growing. But it's very tough for the farmers to get their tomatoes to market in the US. So sometimes it's not quite always so fair. It's supposed to be free trade agreement, but sometimes it just doesn't work as well for the small farmers because they're not subsidized. And so it's very expensive for them when they set their prices, and they're setting it against farmers that have been subsidized elsewhere. So, and that can happen with corn. Then there's other issues too with GMOs. Mexico still has many, many, many varieties of corn. And I think you know GMO is genetically modified organisms. So these, with corn, the pollen can blow for thousands of miles. It can actually go high up into the atmosphere and then come down in places like Mexico. And so what does that mean? It really means that the pollen can fertilize, and this is GMO corn, and farmers in the US often will use seeds from a company like Monsanto, where they're just using GMO products, and so that will reduce the diversity in other places if the pollen blows over to that other place. So in Mexico, there's still lots of varieties. In the United States too, there used to be many, many varieties of corn and other products, but now, especially with corn and some other items, soy, the majority grown is the genetically modified organism. So while it does create a lot more food, there's also a need for pesticides in it at that point, because that's what it's grown for, to be pesticide ready or Roundup ready. So anyway, there's those issues, border issues, and also we mentioned other border issues too earlier. The drug trafficking would come, it often goes through Central America, especially with cocaine, and there's a lot of marijuana grown in Mexico. And of course the United States is the big market, and so that's why it flows across the border. All right, that's enough for now. Thank you for listening.